Sooner Nation, Longhorn fans, welcome to episode 147 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Texas, and the University of Oklahoma. I'm here with my man, Kevin Miller. I am John Whitson. Kevin, before we talk about the beatdown that was in Norman, it would be remiss if I did not talk about the weather that hit Oklahoma City overnight and in the wee hours of the morning. Listen, dude, tornadoes suck. There's a lot of things that suck about living in Oklahoma. I actually love living in Oklahoma, but there's still things that aren't great. The wind, the incredible heat in the summertime, lots of other factors. But I love living here. It's God's country. I get to be an Oklahoma fan. I get to live in Oklahoma. It's great. The tornadoes are a bit much. Now, it's one thing when it's happening in March, in April, and it's happening at 7 o'clock at night, and you're literally watching for your entertainment. It's another thing when your daughters run into the room at 2 a.m, wake you up from a dead sleep because their cell phones are going off, and you have to watch the news in the bed just to make sure your house doesn't get blown away. And I'm only like 4 or 5 miles away from Southeast 89th and Sooner Road. And it's scary, bro. It's scary when you wake up in the morning and see how close that was to you. So I just want to shout out to those people, thoughts and prayers. We'll talk about a little Brown O'Haver stuff, but that's not what I'm really talking about. I'm just talking about the sheer, for lack of a better word, terror that I'm sure a lot of people have to go through when this stuff happens in the middle of the night. It's unnerving, Kevin. It's unnerving.
Like you said, when it happens at 7 p.m., we're all awake, alert, aware. 2 a.m. is completely different. And sometimes you only have seconds to get to wherever your safe spot is. So, yeah, it's a huge difference when it's overnight.
Oh, it's messed up. It's messed up. I don't like it. And then the sickening feeling of watching the news in the morning because nobody knows what happened overnight. So you're watching the news and you don't really know the damage. And you're like, oh, well, what happened? And then you see it and you're just like, oh, my God, dude, it's so bad. So anyway, I had to say it because I think it's going to be on a lot of people's minds, or at least it's on my mind. I think it was on your mind. You said your sister was in town from Colorado. She had to deal with it?
Yeah, visiting here. Yeah, they were in a hotel and they had to all go down to the hotel's laundry room, which is their safe spot at 2 a.m. So she has 3 kids, including a 2-year-old. So quite the night for them.
Yeah, it just sucks. I hate it. I hate the tornadoes. And I hate how it impacts people's lives. And I hate what it does to, like, you talk about the kids. You talk about is it niece, nephew, whatever, the 2-year-old?
Yeah, my nephew.
Your nephew. I mean, it's weird, man. They're going to have, whatever. I had to mention it. Okay, Kevin. Oklahoma played Maine yesterday. The game was moved up to 11 a.m. I'm glad to God it was moved up to 11 a.m. because it was nice to get that game over with. The score was what we thought it would be, 59-14. The first quarter led, I think, to a lot of frustration for OU fan, including myself, to have to punt, to have to allow them to score, a fumble on your way into scoring. It was just frustrating. But then we turned things on, and you beat Maine the way you're supposed to beat Maine. Shout out to Javante Barnes. He has gotten a ton of crap from me on this podcast for the last couple of years. He did go 18 for 203 and 11.3 yards a carry and 3 touchdowns. He looked really good. And the offensive line gave him holes to run through. Okay? So that's positive. It's not an SEC front. We know that. But coupled with what we saw at Ole Miss, I think there could be some optimism. Right, Kevin? I don't think I'm blind. I'm not blind to the competition level. But it could have not looked as good, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, you don't learn a ton from playing someone like Maine. But when your season is going the way the OU is going, you'll take any positivity you can get. Anything that'll build confidence in the players, you'll take it.
I hope this built his confidence up because he did look really good. He was busting through holes. But again, the holes were really big. But that's fine. Again.
Yeah, the holes were big. Maine was not athletic on defense at all. They're well coached. They are well coached, though. I'll give them that.
Yeah, I thought through the first quarter they had a good game plan. for slowing Oklahoma down.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, and there
Go
were
ahead.
no busts. I didn't see any busts from Maine where guys were running down the field just wide open on bust. Obviously, there's such a sheer contrast in athleticism between what OU has and what Maine has. You guys were able to run away from them with ease, but there were no coverage busts. I thought they were a prepared, well-coached football team
Yeah,
for their level.
again, the first quarter for them looked really good. PV did a couple nice things, but ultimately the game wasn't close, nor should it have been. If I'm being really positive about the running game, I have to maybe question the passing game just a little bit. I just really thought this was going to be an opportunity for Jackson Arnold to really maybe pile up some stats and build some confidence for himself. I'm not sure he did that. Now, he did have what is being reported to be the longest pass play from scrimmage at Oklahoma at home with a 90-yard pass to J.J. Hester, where Arnold kind of had to roll out. The throw is really good, to be fair. I mean, he's rolling out to his right. He's having to heave it. It's like a 40-yard pass in the air. It's a really nice pass and a good run by J.J. Hester. But that 90 yards eats up 224 yards of that passing. I know every passing yard counts, but it just leaves a taste in my mouth. It's like 15 of 21 for 224. I don't know. I expected a little more.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you're running the ball like that, 203 yards rushing for Barnes, it just seemed like that was what they leaned into. And it seems like everybody was just trying to get the game over with to keep that clock running.
That's fine.
Even with Maine, right? They went for it on the fourth down on their first drive and converted. But there were two times when the game was still close.
Yes.
Right. They had fourth and short near midfield, and they punted both times. And I'm like, okay, they're not trying to win the football game. They're just trying to, they're just trying to kind of get out of here and
I got
compete.
Yeah, I thought that was odd.
By that.
I thought that was odd too. Let me ask you this though: Javonte Barnes ran the ball well. First of all, we're already concerned about the offense, so should we be concerned has sailed. But especially concerning that Tatum and Franklin didn't look particularly good.
Well, I mean, it just sounds like Javonte Barnes is your guy, and as the weeks go on, I think we're starting to understand why the coaches have trusted him more than the other guys.
Yeah,
because with Tatum, he's had multiple fumbles, and the pass pro isn't there with him. So despite he is limited, Javonte Barnes, from a breakaway standpoint against SEC defenses, but it seems like he's the best you got. And Tatum right now is more of a potential home run threat against certain looks. But he never really got loose last night.
A potential home run threat that through 9 games has not hit a home run yet. So
he is not. But not everybody hits right away. And I think we got to understand that when it comes to freshmen. Sometimes, especially when they have 5 stars next to their names, we expect them to come in and be stars right away. But not everybody's
a la Caden Durham at LSU, who looks like a stud already.
He does, but a different situation, right? They've got a different offensive line situation.
Yeah,
than you have.
No, I know.
Even Adrian Peterson, who's not human, he came into an incredible situation where you guys had such a dynamic passing attack. And it's like, pick your poison. Taylor Tatum is not walking into that kind of situation. And even Texas, if you look at someone going back 25 years almost, Cedric Benson, took him a while to get loose. He ended up with 1,000 yards as a freshman, but it took him, a few games before he became the guy. So it's just some guys just get it faster than others.
Caden Helms with a touchdown pass. It was good to see him in the tight end come out of the tight end room. Been plagued by injury. So that was good. Look, I thought Joe John's play calling, it looked better. It looked better than if I can superimpose what I think Seth Luttrell would have called against Maine, I'm taking Joe John Finley's game plan over Seth Luttrell's. We saw
nothing there that, no real head scratchers like you saw underset
Okay.
the trail the
The
entire
closest game, we talked about this. The closest game to compare this to is Temple. Okay. I'm guessing Temple's better than Maine. I don't know. Temple sucks. Like they both
Well,
suck.
I mean, Maine is FCS, and they're ranked in the 50s
Okay.
in
Yeah,
FCS.
but
So-
Temple sucks too, though, right? Like
Temple's, yeah, they're one of the worst team in FBS.
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
degrees. It's degrees of sucking, right? They all suck. Okay, they both suck. My point was against Temple, we did not see the explosive plays. Okay, and we definitely didn't see the running game. We did not see 200 yards rushing out of Javonte Barnes, where we left the Temple game going, well, maybe we're not any good, but at least we can run the ball when we're playing against a bad team. That did not happen in a 51-3 win against Temple. So is it possible we've improved? Maybe. I also think it's possible that the running plays that are being called and executed we saw it against Ole Miss in the first half anyway, fit the script a little bit better. That's all I'm getting at is I think it's a positive move up. I still think there's probably going to be a search for an offensive coordinator. I don't think, unless we go on a epic run over these last 3 games, I don't think Joe John Finley is the answer long term. I think maybe I could be wrong, but that's my thought.
Yeah, you could be wrong, but yeah, I think it's probably in the best interest to at least do your due diligence with the search and not just immediately. Even if it goes great, you still do your due diligence and see what's out there before you just hand the keys to him on a full-time basis.
But better, right? I think it's better. Safe to say better.
Yeah, it was. I mean, even last week was better.
Better.
It was just there was a plan last week, a plan that anybody watching could recognize.
Oklahoma's out over 500. They're 5-4. They close with Missouri. When is that Missouri game next week, or do we have a bye?
Let's see. Missouri is
next week.
No,
right?
next week, November 9th. You have the bye after that.
That's what I thought. All right. That's what I thought, but I started to have doubt. Okay. So we close with Missouri, followed by Alabama at home, at Missouri, Alabama at home, at LSU. Missouri.
We have the time for the Missouri game, by the way. I don't know if you saw that.
What time is it?
5:45 p.m. SEC Network. That's a night game. It's now the daylight savings time has ended.
What's your thought on daylight savings time? Does it bother you, or do you not care? Just flip the.
I prefer daylight savings time. I like the longer days. I like when it's still daylight at 8:30 p.m.
Yeah, dude. It's gonna be like dark at 5:30 tonight, something like that. 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
almost.
I mean, it might start off at 6:15, but eventually, it'll be 5:30. It'll be dark.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, especially when it's cold. I like the longer days. So that's why I love the summer months, despite the cruel heat.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. 5:45 SEC Network. Here's the thing. We said it. We talked about it. The main game changes nothing to this thought. It's not a must win for Oklahoma the bowl game narrative and the bowl game streak, whatever. Okay. I want to beat Missouri to beat Missouri. Right?
There's been a lot of talk online between the fan bases over this past year.
Oh, starting with Katie Green. Absolutely.
Lot.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And they've been trolling you guys hard over that and saying how you guys aren't ready for the SEC. And yeah, and they're very confident, at least going into the season, they're very confident that they could beat you guys. And I'm sure they're even more confident now. The season has not gone the way that they hoped it would go for them.
No.
Either, just like you guys. So I think both programs are feeling like, hey, we can salvage something here. And I mean, Missouri still is ranked technically, right? At least as far as last week's AP poll. So yeah, it will be a good win for you guys if you can go down there and beat them, and it will be good for them just so they can talk smack on online like they like to do.
I just think we have to beat Missouri just for beating Missouri's sake, whether it's recruiting, whether it's prestige within the conference. The bowl streak is fine. Great. We make a bowl and we have to play. If the one thing the playoff has done is de-emphasized an already faltering bowl prestige, right? Yeah. So already bowls were trending down into mere exhibition games of little meaning. Now you add a 12-team playoff, and making a bowl just sounds like a chore. It really
Yeah.
does. Like
Yeah.
going to the tax layer bowl does nothing for me.
I think the coaches will like it just because you get extra practices and for the young guys. But
And
from a
that's fine.
fan standpoint, though, yeah, it's not
I mean,
not much to get
Kevin,
excited about.
is there okay? When it was a 4-team playoff, you could convince yourself that you achieved something when you got to do your 6th bowl. Oklahoma had a handful of those over the last 4 or 5 years with, I think, in the Cotton Bowl against Florida, some other bowl, it doesn't matter, whatever. But can we agree that there is a bowl does not exist that can make your college football season seem like a success outside of the college football playoff?
I don't think so. No.
Unless the answer is no.
Not for our programs.
No, that's all I'm talking about. It's Oklahoma, Texas
not for our
podcast.
programs. Yeah, if you're, I don't even know who to compare, but yeah.
If Texas Tech makes a bowl game, they'll be thrilled. I don't know what their record is. They'll be thrilled. They'll think it's great because that's Texas Tech and they're terrible. But no, for Oklahoma, Texas, the best. I don't even know what the best remaining bowl is because I don't know what everybody's playing and all that kind of stuff. But it just doesn't matter. It's going to suck. So whatever. That being said, we got to be Missouri. We'll talk about that game when we do the preview. Texas. Let's just hit on Texas very quickly. Had a bye week. Anything happened to Texas? I saw Stark was at Fasusi's game with Denton and
Louisville.
Who were they playing? Louisville. Denton and Louisville. I guess Brent Venables was there too. So kind of
I think Venables and Beatonbaugh were there. So a little standoff action there. Yeah, Texas. We weren't sure if Texas was still going to pursue Fasusi hard once he committed because he's been rock solid. Everything I've heard is, he's been rock solid to OU despite the way the season has gone. So I wasn't sure we were even still going to go after him, but clearly they wanted to let him know that he is very much wanted to be a part of Texas 2025 recruiting class.
What other guys that were there? Is there other recruits there that Texas was interested and or had commits on?
I don't know other commits from these two schools, but they were there to see Fasusi.
Yeah.
There might be some other guys that they're looking at that are younger, but him on the helicopter and everything, that was strictly to let Fasusi know.
The helicopter's always I don't care what school you're coming from, the helicopter's always a cool touch.
Yeah, it just seems the swag copter with Sumlin back in the day.
Yeah. It just seems legit. Cool. I'm not gonna
if you're a recruit, you hear a helicopter landing near the field, and it's like, oh my God, who is that?
Can you imagine being an 18-year-old kid and getting that kind of treatment? No. I can't even for a minute.
No. It'll blow my mind, man.
How these guys handle, we give them crap all the time for the hats on the table and, the limousines on the way to the whatevers. But I don't know that I could handle it any different. My God.
I don't understand why we are the ones who create that. We follow every move these kids make, and then we get upset when they, act out on it. It's crazy. We create it. We're on websites. We pay for websites to see what these recruits are going to do.
We don't get upset when they pick the OU hat or the side.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
I love the pop and circumstance when they pick the OU hat.
Yeah. I don't care, man. Let them have their moment. You only get this opportunity once in your life. Most people don't get it at all. So let them enjoy it. And again, I've seen certain sports reporters who get upset about the hats on the table. And these are the same guys who are making a career off of covering
hats on the table. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're covering hats on the table.
This is feeding your family. These kids are literally feeding your family. You're getting upset about it. I don't get it. I never will.
No, I don't know. I 100%. Okay. Speak real quick though. I didn't mention this during the OU thing, but as it relates to Fasusi, Fasusi offensive lineman, huge get for Oklahoma if they can hold on to him. Indications are they will, but dude, Sark's landing with helicopters, so whatever. Eddie Pierre-Louis, a big win in the previous cycle, finally saw some game time, had a penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct, going a little past the whistle. Number one, I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. I want an offensive lineman that has every sort of mean, nasty streak you can get. I don't care if it's against Maine. I don't care if it's your first snap. I mean, Orlando Brown was Mr. freaking penalty, and he was great at Oklahoma. So I like the mean streak. There's signs of progress if you think about the fact that EPL could be on an offensive line at Oklahoma next year. And then Fasusi, I don't know if he's ready. Is he a ready to play next year type of player?
I think that's part of the appeal for OU to him is the fact that he can come in and play early. Yeah, I think he can.
Would he play early at Texas?
He has a harder path to the field right away at Texas.
No, that's fine. I think that's where we're at right now on the offensive line. I think you could say the same thing defensively for people coming to Oklahoma. It'd be harder to get on the field.
Yeah.
Defensively, by the way, they look fine. They look good.
Yeah.
Whatever. All right. Okay. Week 10. Can you believe it's already week 10?
No.
I can't stand it. All right. Week 10. Boise State beats San Diego State 56-24. Ashton Genty, 31 carries, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns. Sounds like he had an off night. Hopefully he bounces back next week.
Which is crazy. 149 yards rushing is an off night for him. I don't know if at this point. Yeah, and they just destroyed.
Yeah, he probably didn't even play. He probably didn't play in the fourth quarter at all.
Probably not. We'll see. I don't know, man. I think he's a little off the track for the Barry Sanders record, but still, what a magical season he's having.
Oregon, Michigan, or number 1 team Oregon beats Michigan 38-17. Dylan Gabriel goes 22 of 34, 294 yards and a touchdown. Is it coming down to Gabriel, Genty, and Travis Hunter?
Yeah, you might want to throw Cam Ward in the mix for my.
Yeah, I've got it. And when I read his stat line, it will make sense why. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think we're narrowing down to those 4 guys.
You probably all getting invites unless something happens, right?
I would hope so. I think they've all had seasons that warrant that.
Yeah, I think so too. Georgia, Florida. Florida hung on. Georgia did not look good in the first half. Carson Beck he's sometimes more questions than answers. Sometimes he just makes some stupid throws. That one interception he threw on the to the near sideline. It just was bad. And they go on to win because Georgia's just better than Florida. But it wasn't. And let's not forget to mention Florida loses their quarterback. What did I say last week? I said Texas, in addition to getting the benefit of an amazing schedule, also seems to get the benefit of when they play teams. Okay? So now they get to play a Florida team next week, who they host, mind you. I have no idea how Texas is, whatever. But they host, who will likely be on their third string quarterback. I don't think I'm making too much of this, Kevin.
No, not at all. But hey, when you have the benefit of a schedule like this, you have to take advantage of it. Exactly what you guys didn't do last year.
That's correct.
Yes.
You're right.
So, listen, this game was close. Florida scored 13 in the second quarter. They have the lead. And, Lagway, it was a non-contact injury, too. That's the worst part about it.
Yeah.
Is, he was kind of trying to dive for yardage. And they had to he grabbed his hamstring and they had to bring the card out. So you would have to, I think Billy Napier described it as a pretty significant hamstring injury. So you would expect him to be out. And like you said, Mertz is out. So we're looking at their third string quarterback.
I don't even know who that is. Do you know who it is? Do you even know who that is?
It's Aiden something. He was a transfer. His kid who grew up in Florida. Both his parents went to Florida. When he started off, he went to Yale. And then he transferred into Florida. But it's not like he's a grad transfer. He's only a redshirt freshman. He was at 1 year at Yale. And Florida said he can come as a preferred walk-on. And that's what he did. And now he's playing. Now looks like he's going to be starting in Austin Saturday at 11 a.m. So gotta take advantage of it.
Let's talk about the game of the day. Ohio State versus Penn State. Ohio State wins 20-13. This was going on at the same time as the Oklahoma game. I had 2 screens going. By the way, I hate ESPN Plus. I think ESPN Plus sucks. Just
Thankfully, you didn't get they. I will say this: ESPN Plus does suck, but you could have gotten worse commentating crews. We've seen
Kevin. I don't even know who I got, but one of them at one point in time called Bauer Sharp an excellent blocker. What else do you need to know about them being unprepared?
Still, correct. And I remember one time, one of the graphics they were showing a mix of Javante Barnes' runs.
Was
and
he
they
like
pull up the
Bowens?
Billy Bowman?
Oh, Billy
No, it
Bowman's
was Billy
picture.
Bowman because they both were number 2. They say, number 2, we put him up, and it's like, oh, you could. I tell Casey, I was like, yeah, this is definitely the, eighth. This is the 8th team when it comes to ESPN broadcasting.
But that's what you get when you suck at Oklahoma, right? I mean, we experienced this a couple years ago when we were 6 and 7 or whatever. Yeah. You start to get really bad team. It just sucks. Anyway, whatever. That's a sign. Thank you, though. So I had the other game going on the laptop, and I'm watching that, and that was fascinating. A typical Big Ten game, lots of like field position and stuff. The key plays in the game, 2 of the key plays of the game happened in the second quarter, where the quarterback, Will Howard, is scrambling around end and gets stripped right at the goal line, loses the ball, it goes through it. They initially called a touchdown, take points off the board, say he fumbled it through, and Penn State gets the ball at the 20 for a touchback. First things first, I think it was the right call. Second thing, that is the most penalizing rule in football, and it just seems so unfair, doesn't it?
Yeah, I remember I first learning about that rule as a kid when during Super Bowl 27, when Leon Lett had recovered the fumble and started high stepping towards the end zone and got stripped and went out the back of the end zone. And
Dan Beebe.
Yeah, Don Beebe. Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, ever since then, it's just been a crazy rule, and it still exists 30 years later. So it's very unfortunate for Will Howard. Got to protect the ball going into the end zone.
And then I think, was it on the ensuing drive?
I believe it was.
Okay, on the ensuing drive, Penn State moves the ball down the field. At this point, I think they're up. Are they up? Is it like 14-13 or 13-10 maybe, something like that?
I think it's
10-7,
something like that.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, it could have been 10-7. You're right. Could have been 10-7. So they're marching it, and they're really moving the ball well. Get a pass interference call that takes them. The guy still makes a great catch, even though despite the pass interference call, makes a great kind of one-handed catch around the 5. The next play, they throw a post, and it looks like a typical incompletion, but upon further review, it was a fantastic interception by Ohio State.
Yeah, it was a corner route there, and the score actually was 14-10. Ohio State.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Yeah, Ohio State was up. Yeah, and it just looked like it was going to be a touchdown, and then it's like, is it incomplete? And then, nope, it's an interception. Great play.
And I thought it was great. Great play, great call. Yeah, great play, great call, especially going to – okay, so then you fast forward to like 5 minutes left, 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Penn State is down a touchdown, 20-13. Number 44 for them, his name escapes me, but he is a beast.
Yeah, Tyler Warren is his name.
He talk about a kid that plays at Penn State. Like if you drew him up, he'd either play at Penn State or Nebraska. Like those are the 2 places that kid would be allowed to play. Yeah, those are the 2 places that kid would be allowed to play football. Anyway, makes a great play, gets him down to like the 4 or 5 yard line. And I'll let you describe the offensive ineptness of James Franklin.
Man, it had to be just so frustrating. It was frustrating for us watching it. I can't imagine.
And we're not even Penn State fans.
We're not Penn State fans. No rooting interest in this game whatsoever. And they have this set. They have an extra offensive lineman out there who's almost playing like a wide receiver. He's flexed out. They bring him in motion. They run the ball. This is on second down. They run the ball. They get stuffed.
They did the same thing on first down.
Okay. And then they do it on second down.
They might not have had the offensive lineman, but on first down, they ran right up the middle. Right up the middle.
Get stuff. And they come back. They bring the extra offensive lineman in. Have him kind of flexed out. They bring him in motion right before the snap. He tries to do a lead block, whips on the block. They get stuffed again. Third down, they run the exact same thing. They get stuffed again. Fourth down, same formation, also with the extra offensive lineman in. And then they use the tight end. They try to hit the tight end in the flat. They cover it up. They try to throw it to the other tight end. It gets broken up. They turn it over on downs, and then there was still 5 minutes left, and they never got the ball back.
Ohio State got
Ohio
the ball the whole
State
time.
just ran it and ran it and ran it and ran out the clock. Infuriating if you're a Penn State fan.
It's really bad. This is Ohio State, and it wasn't on the 1 yard line, Kevin. It was on like the 4 or 5 yard line. Like this isn't like where you tell your offensive line, we just need to pick up a yard, and no, they had to pick up like 4 or 5 yards. So it's a really odd choice. Now, on first down, fine, run it up the middle, I guess. Most people do. That's great. But man, you got to get outside a little bit on second down. There's got to be a little misdirection. There's got to be something a little different so that you don't know what you're expecting on third down. I got to tell you, if I'm Penn State fan and you are 1-10, 1-11 against Ohio State,
1-11.
I mean, my God in heaven, how can you be happy with James Franklin when those are the 4 play calls you get?
Correct, man. It's like banging your head against the wall over and over again. Like, try something else. Spread it out. And it's not like Penn State doesn't have athletes. They have athletes on the perimeter. Just get them the ball. You just tight end.
Kevin, how does 44 not touch it on 4 plays?
Seriously. And he's so good. We've seen this guy run Wildcat quarterback.
Yes.
And be effective.
Yeah,
There's no creativity. They were just like, oh, we're going to impose our will against Ohio State. Dude, you're just trying to win the game.
Yeah,
you're just trying to win the football game, man.
Imposing anything.
No, just win the game. History's not going to say you impose your will. Just win the football game. And you had a chance to do it, at least tie the football game. Who knows? Maybe you tie it and Ohio State comes and gets a game-winning touchdown. But that's fine. Just get a touchdown, man. You've got dudes. And you blew a fantastic opportunity.
It was bad.
A fantastic opportunity.
All right. Miami beats Duke 53-31. It's kind of a ball game for a while. It's kind of been the story of Miami's season. They play in some of these ball games in the first half. Some continue to be ball games, and some the blowout occurs. In this case, the blowout occurred. Cam Ward, you mentioned him. Listen to this stat line, dude. 25 of 41 for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. Yeah, I think that's an invite to New York.
Yeah, he's dynamic and he's fun to watch, right? He's one of those guys, kind of Johnny Manziel-ish. You just never know what you're going to get. You just know it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Tune in because this kid is fun to watch. He has been since he was in a Carnon Word in San Antonio, and then goes to Washington State, and then ultimately ends up at the U. And yeah, good for them, man. This is the kind of guy that they've been waiting on for years. They haven't had a great quarterback in a long time.
Don't you worry about time. Don't you? Listen, I think I think they're ranked appropriately based on continuing to be undefeated and stuff. But don't you worry about a Miami against Georgia, Alabama, even Texas's defense?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They do have a lot of weapons, though, and they've got him. And the thing is, he's always going to make that 1 or 2 throws a game where he goes across his body and it gets intercepted. But, I guess you have to live with that when he's so dynamic running the ball and throwing the football. So I think you'll live with that one bad turnover, even though at some point it will cost them in a game. Now, with their regular season, it won't. If they're focused, they should go undefeated. They've got Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse left before the ACC championship game. So they should breeze through that.
Which looks like it might be Southern Methodist against Pittsburgh. I mean, because Southern Methodist beats Pittsburgh last night to make by 48-25. The SMU quarterback, Jennings, goes 17 of 25 for 306 and 2 touchdowns. A Miami-SMU matchup is looking very real for the ACC.
And that will be fun. I can see that being a pretty decent shootout there.
Despite Pittsburgh being undefeated up until yesterday, I think Miami and SMU are the clear number 1 and 2 teams in that conference, right?
Yeah, especially with what we saw from the other team that we had as a contender, which we'll get to in a second, Clemson.
Louisville beats Clemson 33-21. Clemson is who they thought we were, or who we thought they were.
It's interesting, right? Because they had really turned it around offensively. And, man, they could not get the passing game really going last night. Klubnik First of all, 33 of 56. So they threw the ball 56 times, but only for 228 yards and a touchdown. No turnovers. I think, Louisville just really defended well. They ran the ball well. Phil Moffitt, 30 carries for 171 yards. But Louisville's offense, too. Tyler Shuck, who's been all over the place, right? This dude's been at Oregon. He's been at Texas Tech. Now at Louisville, solid game, 17 of 32, 156, no touchdowns, but they ran it well. Isaac Brown, 20 carries for 151 yards and a touchdown. And they controlled the entire game. This was not a fluke.
Nothing.
They were up. Clemson was up 7-3 after the first, and then it was all Louisville after that. They scored a couple mop-up touchdowns in the end, but this game really was not close at all.
Tennessee beats Kentucky 28-18. Nico has a good game. South Carolina, A&M. I picked South Carolina. I said A&M was going to lay an egg. Part of me was just kind of being a little cheeky about it, but it indeed happened. I think A&M laid an egg. South Carolina is a good football team. But boy, A&M didn't feel like they showed up at all.
No, well, here's the interesting thing, right? So South Carolina jumps up 14-0.
Yep.
Quick. They go right down the field in the first drive. Force a turnover on downs, get another big play in the passing game, 4 touchdowns, 14-0. And then, A&M gets a field goal, and then they just start coming back. They come back to actually take the lead in the second quarter, 20-17. South Carolina gets a field goal as time expired to make it 20-20. So you're thinking, man, this is going to be a crazy second half, and it just wasn't, man. It wasn't. Whatever adjustments that South Carolina made, they just completely dominated the second half, outscoring the Aggies 24-0.
Yeah.
Wild stuff, man.
I guess I should say they laid an egg in the second half, but they very much laid an egg. Yeah. They just could, and they had no answer for Lenora Sellers running the ball.
No, I don't think they were prepared for his combination of athleticism and power. He's a big dude, 6'3", 240.
Did you see him meet the dude for the first down?
Oh, man.
In the second quarter, I think. Man, he ran
that
kid up. Oh, my
ran gosh. Right through him.
Had a very oh gosh,
Tebow-esque?
Not Tebow, Cam Newton. Very Cam Newton look about him when he came around that end. Yeah.
6'3", 240. But really though, the story in this one was Raheem Rocket Sanders, their running back, 20 carries for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns, 5 catches for 92 yards. They could not cover him out of the backfield. Also, the tight end, 4 catches, 132 yards and 2 touchdowns.
They made the comment that Rocket's been hurt most of the year.
Yeah.
So maybe he's finally healthy. Listen, I think South Carolina's a fine team, and they could have won this game no problem anyway. I just don't think A&M helped themselves in the second half at all.
No, I completely agree. And their top running back, Le'Veon Moss, got injured in the first quarter. He took a big hit to the knee, and it did not look good. I haven't heard anything from Texas A&M officially, but it didn't look good at all for him. So, and that affected their game plan a lot. They corralled the quarterback, though. He wasn't bad. He had 1 turnover. He was really good in stepping up in the pocket. I thought both offensive lines did a pretty good job because we know about you. OU fans know about the South Carolina pass rush.
Yep.
And I think they had 1 sack. There's only 1 sack combined. A&M obviously has some freaks out there too on the defensive line. I think this game literally only had 1 sack, and it was South Carolina getting 1 on A&M. So good job by the offensive lines. But it's become absolutely chaotic in the SEC now with A&M losing.
Speaking of teams losing, Iowa State goes down to Texas Tech 23-22. Iowa State no longer in the company of undefeateds. However, staying in the company of undefeateds, Indiana beats Michigan State 47-10. Indiana continues to be the real deal. They've got an upcoming matchup against Michigan next week and 3 weeks against Ohio State. The Michigan game obviously looked harder at the beginning of the year. I mean, Indiana we're going to talk about playoffs. They're in a really good spot for the playoffs. Houston beats K-State. I don't know what to make of that. I don't think Houston's very good, but K-State has had some weird losses this year. What about Ole Miss? Okay, I was wrong. I said Ole Miss wasn't very good. I thought for sure Arkansas would give them a football game. Ole Miss beat their brains in. Did we actually make Ole Miss not look that good? Or is Arkansas that bad? Like, give me some context to this.
Who knows, man. But with this season, I don't know what to think of any team. To be quite honest with you, I don't even know how good Georgia is. They were incredible against Texas, but they were all right. You know what I mean? So, but that Arkansas game, what they did yesterday to Arkansas's defense, and we thought Arkansas was a solid team, and they've played okay defense at times this season. But I don't understand. Trey Harris, who was out for the OU game, he was out again yesterday. Also, their tight end, who played well against you guys, he didn't play either. And all of a sudden, Jordan Watkins, listen to the stat line, 8 receptions, 254 yards receiving, and 5 touchdowns. What are we talking about?
That's insane. That's insane. Absolutely insane.
5
it's out of nowhere. Receiving. It's out of nowhere.
Yeah, correct. He's like their number 3 receiver. 8 for 254 and 5 touchdowns. Daquan Wright, 9 receptions, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. Caden Lee, 5 catches, 127. They look like 2019 LSU.
Absolutely.
They look Jefferson, so good. Jamar Chase, and Terrace Marshall. That's what
Dart just dropping dimes. He looked like
Joe Burrow.
I did not see it coming. I didn't think Ole Miss.
Real quick, I got to tell you a stat line. 25 of 31 for 515 yards and 6 touchdowns. No interceptions. Their backup was 3 of 3 for 47 and a touchdown, too. So total as a team, 28 of 34 for 562 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Okay. I guess that's my point about Jackson Arnold. Okay. That was against Arkansas. I'm not saying you're going to go for what'd you say, 590 and 6 touchdowns, but that level of efficiency and productivity would have felt really good to see out of JFA against Maine. Do you see what I'm talking about, though?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure. Makes perfect sense.
We saw it from Barnes. I would have liked to see it from JFA too, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. Okay. Army stays undefeated, beats Air Force 20-3. Minnesota beats Illinois. Illinois is going to fall in the top 25. In SEC play, Vandy beats Auburn 17-7. Mississippi State over UMass 45-20. Within the state of Oklahoma, ASU beats Oklahoma State 42-21. Oklahoma State is now 0-6 in Big 12 play. Looking at their schedule, I don't think they get another win. It's a disaster in Oklahoma State. If it's bad in OU, it's a disaster in Oklahoma State. And then other disasters, which, again, with the way my season's going, this is going to sound petty. It's going to sound compulsive. It's going to be talking about a person that might or might not be living rent-free in my head. All those things can be true at the same time. And yet, Washington beats USC 26-21. They fall to 4-5. Here is the thing. People will say, at least it's competitive. When Oklahoma loses games, they're not competitive. But when USC, this is what has happened to Oklahoma and to USC, is that we are comparing levels of suck to the different programs and the coaches that are coaching. I don't really care. You can't tell me. I know for a fact that you did not think USC was going to be 4-5 at this point in the season.
No way. And we were unsure about how good they could be, but we didn't envision this.
I was not.
I did not envision this.
You were unsure. I was not unsure.
No, I mean, there's no way you thought that USC was.
Dude, they were 7-5 with Caleb Williams.
4-5.
Dude, they were 7-5. 7-5 with Caleb Williams, a generational talent, a Heisman Trophy winner, a quarterback who's doing pretty good for the Bears, who typically suck at quarterback. Okay, the only reason he lost the game against Washington is because the one quarterback's, high-fiving the fans over here on the sideline. Did you see that play? You know what I'm talking about?
I watched it live. It was insane.
Whatever. Oh, did you? Okay. So, yeah. Anyway, my point being is they were 7-5 with that. And he's not walking through the state. He's out walking through the tunnel, Kevin. What else did you need to know?
Man, crazy seasons happen with good quarterbacks. But this is what it is now. And I just don't understand how this team can't win close games. It doesn't make any sense.
I think had a chance, much like their game against Maryland. They had a chance to win this game, Kevin. They were in the red zone.
Every game they've been in, every loss they have. Here are their scores real quick for USC on their losses. 27-24 to Michigan.
Yep.
24-17 to Minnesota. 29-28
Yep.
to Maryland. 26-21 to Washington. What?
Crazy. It's crazy.
Like, I don't understand this at all. It is, and what the heck are they? We talked about OU, what potentially could happen with Brent Venables. What the heck is USC going to do? Because you guys are invested with Brent Venables, but they are ultra invested in Lincoln Riley. So what the heck do you do here? It's year 3.
And here's the deal, right? I think the difference is a couple things. One, BV did go 10-3 last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so whatever. But there's at least, number 2, defensively, you can see a clear difference in performance. Just look at the Ole Miss score. Just look at the Ole Miss and the Ole Miss Arkansas score. OU has a very good defense. They are effective. And if we can turn the offensive around, we will be a very, very competitive team next year. Okay. And we're playing the schedule from hell, right? Let's just face it. We're not playing Washington, Maryland, Wisconsin.
That's the worst part
and a down Michigan team. Okay.
And that's the worst part for USC, right? The schedule was manageable for them this year.
It was manageable. It was very manageable. Okay. So, and maybe most importantly, Oklahoma fan largely and Oklahoma administration likes Brent Venables. Like, we like him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, we like him. We want him to win. We want him to do well. We are all hoping he does well. And I think they want to give him every single opportunity they can have to do well. Now, they're not going to, I do not think we're just going to sit there and let him suck. But you see what I'm saying? I'm not sure he's likable at SC. I mean, you got freaking, who was the running back from their 04 national championship team coming out talking trash?
Who, Reggie Bush or Lindell White?
No, the other one.
Lindell White?
Lindell White. I think Lindell White was coming out talking trash on Twitter. Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear about that. Yeah, it's bad. And they have to figure this out. I mean, from an administrative standpoint, USC, because
I don't know.
It is not, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. And the offense is not dynamic. The defense is better, but I mean, it's just not what we thought it would be. And it's not what they thought it would be at all. It's very concerning.
Here's the thing. You talk about his offense being dynamic. And look, Oklahoma and Oklahoma fan are in no position to be criticizing offenses. I will grant you that. However, I don't care. You read me all those scores. Read me all those scores again, Kevin. He doesn't score outside of the 20s.
No, did you hear what I said? I said the offense has not been dynamic.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Then we agree.
and that's the problem. The defense has been better, but it's not great, and the offense has not been dynamic. So, what are you getting here? Right? You bring Lincoln Riley in to score big points, to make big plays, to run counter action and hit deep shots down the field. And like you said, these scores, I'll read you the scores though: 27 against LSU, 48 against Utah State, 24 against Michigan, 38 on Wisconsin, who's horrible, 17 at Minnesota, 30 against Penn State. They look pretty good offensively there. 28 against Maryland, 42 against Rutgers, and then 21 against Washington. 21.
And at home, right?
No, it was in Seattle.
Still, whatever.
It doesn't matter. 21 points.
I guess you give him another year. I don't know why. What do you need to see? But whatever. Okay, real quick.
Who else are we going to bring in? It's the same thing I say with OU. If you is it bad enough to where it's anybody's better or what? So, but yeah, I don't want to be the AD at USC right now.
OU won. Texas did not lose, and we are now over 500 in picks for the first time all year. We both had Ohio State covering. You had Georgia. You had Florida covering, which they did. So you got the win for that. I got the loss. You had A&M covering. I had South Carolina. Obviously, that was a loss for you, win for me. We both had Vanderbilt, and we both had Oklahoma. So that's 26 and 25 on the year. We are tied, Kevin, through week 10, and we are above 500. If you're listening to the Boomer Bevo podcast, you are making money on the year, Kevin, even though it's only one unit. Whatever, it doesn't matter. You're in the plus. Hey, I talked about the tornadoes at the top of the hour. Look, dude, people are going to go through some crap. Tornadoes suck. There's just no way around it. I don't know what to say. Every part of a tornado damaged house and commercial building, for that matter, sucks. Just sucks. You're displaced, stuff messed up. There's nothing good about it. Brown O'Haver is a public insurance adjusting firm. They work for you, not the insurance company. Basically, Brown O'Haver is an advocate to make sure you get paid the full and fair settlement for your insurance claim. But more than that, Brown O'Haver has been through every single tornado disaster and more since 2006. Okay? That includes the big one in 13, the semi-decent sized one in 15, and multiple others. Okay? They've seen it. They've done it. They can get you through not just the insurance claim, but the navigation of life after a tornado. So if you got hit by a tornado last night, or you know somebody that has, 405-735-5510. Tornadoes suck. And Brown O'Haver's job is to make the aftermath suck a little less. Give Brown O'Haver a call, 405-735-5510. Kevin, college football predictions, the playoff predictions, okay? So I'm going to go through the top 25, and then I'm going to go through the CFP predictions, and let's just talk about what we're looking at. Top 25, really quick. This is a prediction of what the top 25 is going to look like here in a couple hours because we're recording this a little early. It's probably right, though. I think it's on three's prediction. Oregon, Ohio State, Miami, Georgia, Texas, Penn State, Tennessee, Notre Dame, BYU, Indiana, Alabama, and at 12, Boise State. Okay? CFP predictions per ESPN's predictor. These are the top 14 and their percentages. Oregon at 96% likelihood to get into the playoff. Miami at 93, Georgia at 92, Ohio State at 91, Indiana at 87, Texas 78, Tennessee at 74, Penn State 74, Boise State 71, BYU 58, Notre Dame 58, Bama at 12. That's important. Bama at 12, 56%, SMU 47%, Ole Miss 29%. I think the difference is, Kevin, is SMU has to get in, or somebody from the ACC has to get in. So that means somebody in that predictor is falling out, right? And the way it looks right now, I'm sorry. What's the other ACC? Did I miss an ACC? No, Miami. I'm sorry. SMU doesn't have to get in. SMU does not have to get in. Correction. Because Miami is most likely in, and maybe even with the 2 seed if things proceed. As of right now, that is 4 Big Ten teams, 4 SEC teams, 2 ACC teams, only 1 Big 12 team. Notre Dame is the independent, and Boise State as the group of 5 automatic bid for being the highest ranked automatic bid. Anything about that through week 10 jump out at you?
Obviously Indiana being mentioned in the college football playoff at week 10.
87% that they get into the playoff.
What are we talking about? Indiana. Good for them, man. And they've earned it. They've earned it. If they should beat Michigan next week.
Kevin,
if
they've
beat Ohio State.
Dude, they've never trailed, dude. They've never trailed, and they're beating the brakes off people.
They did trail. It's funny. They hadn't trailed until yesterday.
Oh, did they trail yesterday?
They were down 10-0 to Michigan State after the first quarter. But hey, give them credit because after the first quarter, they were down 10-0, and then they outscored Michigan
47.
State 47-0.
Oh, I cannot believe Indiana. That was a stat. You took my stat away. Oh my gosh. Look, I'm fascinated. Look, we knew there was going to be SEC teams in. I think they're right so far. Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, and Bama. I don't think this is a great Bama team, but somebody has to be 12. And when you start
they're
getting
going to get
down,
the benefit of the doubt too. They're going to get it.
Well, let me tell you. Okay, at 13 in the AP poll, projected AP poll. So this could change, I guess. But at 13 is A&M. Okay. I mean, if the decision's between Bama and A&M, I think you've got to go Bama, right? With the win over Texas.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, if A&M wins out and beats Texas, I guess you could start having a more serious conversation about who and what and where.
Oh yeah, I mean if they went out and beat Texas.
But as of now, Bama is a better team than A&M, right? At least on their resume.
I mean, maybe. It's so hard to say, man. I mean, they got 2 losses, Alabama, A&M. I mean, they got 2 losses too, but man, who knows? It's chaotic, man. Alabama will get the benefit of the doubt over Texas A&M, though. They just will.
Surprised through week 10 that the Big 12 only has one team, and that one team is BYU.
Well, that's the biggest surprise to me because we talked about this leading up to the season that this conference was going to be a lot of fun to watch, but it was also going to be chaotic and the teams are going to beat up on each other. So I'm not surprised that there is only one, but I think we expected that team to potentially beat Utah. I thought Oklahoma State was going to have a really good year. Clearly, I was dead wrong about that. So yeah, BYU being undefeated this late into the season is the biggest surprise when it comes to the Big 12.
I'm going to look up BYU's schedule really quick. Utah being down is a surprise to me. And I know they've had their Cam Rising issues, but they've had their Cam Rising issues in the past, right?
Yeah,
and still managed
career there.
Yeah, and still managed to be really, really good. But they're not really, really good.
No,
so that's the next team on the schedule for BYU is the Holy War, right?
Yes, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Let me make sure. I'll pull the schedule up now. Yeah, so they have Utah, a disappointing Kansas team, an okay ASU team, and a Houston team that, despite the win against K-State, I still don't think is very good. But they do have to go. Well, no, they host Houston. So they're at Utah, host Kansas, at ASU, host Houston. I mean, I guess my point is, as long as
it's very manageable. We'll say that.
I think the problem for BYU is, though, they have to win the Big 12 to get in. Yeah. No, I think if they go undefeated and lose in the Big 12 championship, I bet they're in, right?
Correct.
Probably in?
Yes. Yeah. And just real quick, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but Colorado is still lurking.
Colorado had a percentage chance on the predictor. That was down at the bottom.
14%.
14%.
Yeah.
Well, but here's the deal, right? If Colorado wins out, I think they're in the Big 12 championship game.
Okay, yeah, and let's let me get their schedule here real quick, and we can talk about quickly who they have.
We got time. Kevin,
Colorado.
Kevin, you have 19 minutes till your Cowboys kick off. You have 19 minutes, Kevin.
Watching them.
You got
I'm watching Bijan to see if he goes crazy against them.
Kevin, Ezekiel Elliott's going to run all over the Falcons.
He would if he was eligible for the game.
That's correct.
Yeah.
What are you doing bringing a dude back that's old and fat? And you know how I feel about fat people, Kevin. Old and fat and can't act right. What are you doing bringing that guy back?
Yeah, I don't understand, man. Disciplinary reasons.
I mean, that is stupid.
Dude,
you know who he is.
His ninth year in the league?
Oh, you know who he is. You know who Ezekiel Elliott is. And honestly, he hasn't been that productive in the last 3 or 4 years. So there's no reason to even bring him back on whatever kind of minimum they had to pay him on. Just go find some fresh blood. That's the problem with the Cowboys, man. They just do stupid stuff. I mean, I would like to say it's admirable that they're benching him for the game, but it's stupid that he was ever there.
Correct. I agree. Yeah.
All right, back to Colorado.
Better.
Back to Colorado.
Okay, so interesting game. They got to go to Lubbock next week.
Play
Texas Tech.
Colorado, right?
And, against Texas Tech, who beat Iowa State on the road last week. So that should be an interesting game. And we all know how Lubbock is. We have both had our issues there.
No, it'll probably be wet. I think the weather's for wet and windy.
And that cold, that windy, those West Texas and Colorado things. Oh yeah, what's cold? It's Colorado. No, it's different.
No,
that West Texas cold is different than Colorado cold.
Yeah.
Then they play Utah. They host Utah. So we'll see which version of Utah we get. Teams are going to be motivated to play Colorado. I don't care how bad your season is going.
I agree with that.
Then they go to Lawrence to play Kansas.
Okay.
And then they close at home on Thanksgiving weekend against Oklahoma State.
Win. I think if they went out, I think if they went out, they're in, right?
I think so.
What's their record in conference?
They're 4-1.
Yeah.
Now Iowa State is also 4-1, so I don't know how that tiebreaker goes. They didn't play each other, but right now it's BYU, and then Iowa State's 4-1 in conference. Colorado's 4-1 in conference, and K-State, Texas Tech are both 4-2. And Cincinnati, Arizona State, and West Virginia right now also have 2 losses in conference.
Okay. All right. That's the picture in the Big 12. The picture in the SEC is Georgia in the lead, right?
Yeah, let me pull it up real quick.
Followed by Texas, Tennessee, Bama, Ole Miss. Am I right?
Give me 1 second here.
Ole Miss, just while you're pulling that up, has a 29% chance to get into the predictor. I don't know how they do that with 2 conference losses at this point. But that being said, Georgia and Texas each have a conference loss. I don't see a loss on Texas' schedule. Maybe to A&M just because it's fluky, I guess.
Yeah, the A&M game is going to be – that's a very losable game for Texas. I will be the first one to admit that just because, maybe they weren't 100% zoned in or ready for that road environment, but it's going to be there at their place, and it's going to be they're going to give everything they have for that game. All right, so here's the SEC standings real quick. Georgia 5-1, they're at the top. Right after them though, A&M still 5-1 in the conference.
Okay.
Tennessee's 4-1, Texas is 3-1, LSU also 3-1.
Oh, we forgot about LSU, didn't we?
Correct. And then you've got a bunch of 2-loss teams. You got a couple. You got Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, and Alabama, all 3-2.
So what's interesting about this is LSU. We're forgetting about LSU with Bama being right there.
LSU has Bama this upcoming week. First of all, ABC with the incredible triple header coming up. Texas and Florida to start off. Then you've got Georgia and Ole Miss at 2:30. Yes, and then the nightcap. LSU and Alabama.
That's a good slate.
So what a great
slate
of college football. Should be a lot of fun.
We're going to pick all 3 of those games next week. Boise State in. If Army would have to go undefeated, I think, to pass it, right? If Army beats Notre Dame.
If they beat Notre Dame, you can put them in over Boise at this point.
They'd have to beat. That's my point. They have to beat Notre Dame. Maybe.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
They'd have to beat Notre Dame. I don't know. Nothing else really stands out.
Now, do we agree that this LSU-Alabama game is pretty much a football playoff eliminator? Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Man,
this could be 3 losses. It'll be 3 losses for.
Yeah.
for either team.
For either team. This game is in Baton Rouge, by the way.
Oh, really?
And it's a night game in Baton Rouge. You know how that goes.
Lane Kiffin hates the fact that LSU gets all the night games. It makes him so mad to see that.
They get so many of them.
Ole Miss gets a ton of 11 a.m. games, don't they? Like they always have. They always have. You rarely see Ole Miss play at night at home.
Yes. Even this Georgia game, a 2:30 game.
Are they hosting Georgia? Or are they going to Georgia?
Yeah, no, it's at the Grove.
People love the Grove, man. People in Oklahoma that visited loved the Grove. All right, Kevin.
Same with Texas.
Moving into next week, we're going to get back on what should be much more in-depth preview because Oklahoma really has, to this point, the game of their year. I mean, this is a defining game for the season. It's a defining game, I think, for Joe John and Brent Venables and Jackson Arnold and the Oklahoma defense. I think this is I don't think I can emphasize how critical it is to win this game. That's on the Oklahoma side. Texas, the benefit of a third-string quarterback after a team that just got beat up by Georgia and Florida is coming to DKR. Texas looking to stay near the top of SEC standings. I think they will, but we'll break it down. Florida does have the athletes. And they have the athletes, I think. They saw what Georgia did defensively, and they have the athletes to at least try to affect that to an extent. Right? I think they do on the defensive side of the ball.
No, they do. They do.
And we saw
not necessarily Georgia athletes, but they have dudes out there.
And they hung with Georgia up through their quarterback getting hurt and some other things happening like that. So whatever. My point being, it's a step up from athleticism. I just don't know that Florida's going to have the firepower to sit Texas. But we'll break it all down. Kevin, we'll break it all down. Any other?
I'm hoping to see some improvements from the Texas that we've seen over the past couple of weeks.
Any other NFL notes heading into this week that we need to be aware of?
No, man. Just hope Bijan has a good game today. Because need to see him do well, get loose. That running game hasn't been great.
How good is the Cowboys' rush defense? Will this be an opportunity for him to go off a little bit?
I think so. Yeah, I haven't been. It's really not one aspect of the team I've been really impressed with, other than CeeDee Lamb.
No, Dak's been really disappointing this year, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. He has. I just don't like the talent on the team. I just don't like the makeup of the roster.
Thoughts
you can win with.
Thoughts about the Jets getting a win on Halloween?
I mean, it's hard to take them seriously.
Did you watch it?
I hardly watched it at all. No.
I texted you a little. I was handing out candy.
Yeah, that's the thing. We were doing Halloween stuff with the fam, so I didn't watch hardly any of it.
It was bad. It was some of the worst football I've seen. This first half was awful. Joe Mixon, I guess, was a bright light for not Cincinnati, for the Texans. He looked good. He looked like Joe Mixon always looks. And the problem with Joe Mixon is I feel like he never really breaks one. Like it's just a bunch of 12. It could be a bunch of 7, 8, 9-yard runs, which in the NFL is.
But I will say I hated the way that Cincinnati used him. They didn't use him. Did you watch film on this guy to see how Lincoln Riley used him at OU? Because they did not utilize him in the passing game at all, and he was incredible doing that. Look at the Houston game, the Texas Tech game. He's basically playing wide receiver a lot.
Well, and he looks
dynamic. He is.
He looks good with the Texans.
They're using him better. I like the way they use him more.
A couple notes though from this game. We're a little long, but that's okay. A couple notes from that game. My God in heaven, when are they going to start cutting people for dropping the ball before the end zone?
Yeah, man. These things just cannot happen.
You just got to cut the guy.
It can't happen at any level.
It shouldn't happen in Pee-wee football, dude.
No.
It shouldn't happen in flag football. It's insanity. It's insanity that it continues to happen. I don't even get it. Okay, that's number one. Yeah. And then number two with the guy's catch, Garrett Wilson's catch. If that's a catch, then I think the one on Monday night was a catch.
Yeah. I agree.
It was
I do think it was a catch, by the way.
I thought it was a hell of a catch. Although I'm concerned about the geometry that exists, where one could say the shin is down before the knee is down. That seems a little unlikely to me. Have you looked at the anatomy between the shin and the knee? It's pretty freaking straight. And I'm not sure that math allows the shin to be down before the knee, Kevin.
I think maybe the side of your leg, but these guys are pretty damn flexible, man. Can contort their
You're
body
telling
in
me
ways that
you're telling me they can flex their bones. They can flex their bones to get down.
if you
It
kind
was
of
a
if
hell
you
of a
fall at
it
the
was a
if you
hell of a
fall at the
catch.
right angle.
I love the catch. I love the catch. I'm just saying, I'm not sure how the shin can be down before the knee.
Yeah. Is the shin only considered the front part of your leg?
Dude, look at
Right?
my
Is it
leg,
like
Kevin.
only the
Kevin, look
front?
at my leg. That's a straight line, bro.
Yeah.
Does he have a different leg than this? I'm showing my leg for those not watching.
I
mean, come
I
on,
don't know.
man.
I have not had the privilege of Garrett Wilson doing what you just did here on YouTube. So
Hey, I'll put the leg up. That is why I got great legs. Listen, there are a number of parts of my body where I feel less than. Okay? I'm not going to lie. But on the legs, I've got a great leg game, Kevin. A
Hey,
great leg game.
here
They're
for you.
proportioned, they're tanned, they're toned enough without being weird, hairy without being too hairy. I've got a great leg game. I'll show them again if I have to. My point is, it was a really great catch. I'm just not sure how the math works.
Garrett Wilson, by the way, the guy who apparently fractured the relationship between Urban Meyer and Tom Herman during his recruitment. You know, he's out of
Oh, really?
Austin, Texas, and obviously Tom Herman wanted him at Texas, and he ends up going to Ohio State to play for Coach Meyer. And yeah, kind of some things happened during that recruitment that damaged their relationship. So shout out to Garrett Wilson.
Did you see Tom Herman all pissy after his loss?
I did see that. Pretty on brand, right?
Oh, I think it's beautifully on brand.
Yeah.
And listen, when you lose, just don't act like that.
Well, especially when you get blown out.
Yeah, stop.
First of all, there's no excuse for acting petty after the game, but you can understand the emotions of a close football game. But when you get blown out, I don't know if he thought the guy was running the score up. I'm not sure what the context of what happened was, but yeah, it's not a good look.
Just walk over it. Just
yeah.
walk over a good
Shake your
game and
hand
just
and get in the locker room.
be on with your business. Like, what are we doing?
Correct.
I mean, the guy might be a dick, but here's the reality, right? We know what Tom Herman is. So if there's two people and they're having a disagreement and one of them's Tom Herman, I can almost guess who's on the right side of the disagreement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think it takes a lot to figure that one out.
Real quick before we go, Zeke
yeah.
Elliott, apparently he has had multiple tardiness to meetings, and it's habitual tardiness. This is per Athlon Sports. Aside from a habitual tardiness, he's missed 3 team meetings, and including he missed Friday's meeting. Yeah.
I mean, the whole reason that you sign a running back with his production that is that old and maybe a little fat is for the experience and the leadership. That's it.
Correct.
That's it.
Correct.
And there's clearly he doesn't have that. And it's not a surprise to anybody that has ever followed the Dallas Cowboys. Like,
no,
least surprising thing you've ever heard.
So when he came into the league, man, he was so good. His first 2 years,
he was so good.
the league in rushing.
I'm taking away what he did for 5 years with the first 5 years with the Cowboys. He was great. And behind that offensive line, he was great. But he's a running back, and he is what he is as a person. And in year 9, it just didn't make any sense to bring him back.
No, it didn't make sense to bring it back, and it makes even less sense now. And I'm honestly surprised that they didn't just
cut his ass.
Just cut him, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I think they're so thin right now at that position. But there's got to be somebody out there. I know they signed Dalvin Cook, who's on the roster, who's trying to come back. You know, he's had terrible injury problems too. So yeah, this whole thing is just a disaster for the Cowboys this year.
I think I make this statement a lot on this podcast, and that's okay. But sometimes I feel like some organizations will literally go out of their way to make the wrong decision every single time. Like they acknowledge what the right decision is and then purposely make the wrong decision. And I feel like that's the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Like it's staring them right in their face. The way they handled CeeDee Lamb, that thing should have been done in June.
Just pay the guy. Yeah, exactly. Let's not make this
He's-
difficult.
He might be the best wide receiver in the league right now.
Yeah, and we know how, like, you're a business owner, you know how negotiations work, but they had no leverage here. You know what the end result is going to be. Why are we dancing around?
Why are we doing it?
There was no way that he wasn't going to get the contract he got.
And the Cowboys, when the Cowboys are good, and good might be a relative term over the last 25 years, but when they're good and in the hunt for the division, let's say that, in the hunt for the division, they have a really, 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 really good offensive line. And they didn't do very much at all Tyler Guyton is starting at offensive line. He was fine with you, but he doesn't need to be starting the NFL year one. I'm just saying it. I don't love that. I mean, that alone speaks to the fact that they were not serious about shoring up their offensive line. And then that just leads to all the other problems that you get offensively.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it just hasn't looked right. The lack of talent at the other wide receiver spots, the lack of talent at running back.
I can't even name another receiver. Who's the other receivers? Exactly. I can't even name one right now.
That you just said it right there. We don't even have to get into it.
Yeah, I'm a guy that watches football. I can't think of it right now. All right, whatever. Kevin, big week next week where both schools are back into SEC play. Texas looks to roll. Oklahoma looks to get a must win. We will be here midweek with our previews. Like always, Kevin, enjoy the NFL today. Enjoy the rainy weather. Those out there with tornadoes, we feel for you. If you need anything, text us on, put a comment on YouTube, put a comment on Twitter at Boomer Bevo Pod. Happy to help out, point you to resources, whatever we can do. Just with Kevin and I's experience, me in the public adjusting world, Kevin in the roofing world, and I didn't get to say anything about Pioneer Roofing, but regardless, you've heard us before. Text us, tweet at us, whatever. We want to be able to be a resource as well. So reach out to us. Other than that, have a great week. Kevin, Boomer.
Hook 'em.